Welcome to Vintage Variety. Today I am antiquing with a good friend of mine and my mama, and I thought I would bring you guys along. The one necklace that you see right here, it says that it's real amber. I'm going to get a closer look at that. I'm not really sure that this is amber. It looks more like amber lucite. What I can tell you is it has a very hefty price tag. In fact, most of the items in this case are priced beyond my budget, but it doesn't hurt to have a good look. You never know, I might spot something that does fit into my budget. Quite a few pieces of milk glass. I have a set like this at home. Someone's old baby shoes. And some Fenton. I really like this. This is an old dresser set. You can see it has a hair receiver. This is most likely done out of celluloid. A set of old pictures. I really like this. I think this is pretty. I have a compote that matches it at home. Not something I'm going to buy today. These are also quite pretty, the blue glasses. And vintage, of course. More glassware. Lots and lots of glassware in this shop. Another piece of Fenton. This one is a vase. And another one. All of this is jewelry. None of it has a price, and I don't really see anything in here. More jewelry. I want to have a closer look at this gold chain. Nice. Don't see any kind of marking on it, but it's not bad. I always like looking at old photographs and postcards. They have quite a few in this booth. Some old children's books. They have a larger selection of books here, and of course that is what Mama is looking at. Mama has found a basket full of jewelry. So we're going to take a really close look at all of the pieces in this basket. We did find quite a few really good pieces in that basket that I'm going to take home with me today. There are some more items in this case, and all of them are nice, but I really don't see anything that I'm interested in buying. Never hurts to look, though. Some more items that are hanging up. I see some amethyst beads, a few chains. Those are the amethyst. I think those are pretty. And some more items. This is just a mixture of things. Another basket. I'm going to have to look through that just to check these necklaces out a little closer. I've never heard of that brand. I've spotted another basket full of jewelry, and I've already picked out 2 pins. They probably need a couple of repairs to them, but for the price, I felt like they were well worth it. I've found a lot of good items by looking through baskets and bins like this one. I always love looking at vintage hats. So I'm back home, and I've decided that I'm going to do this content in 2 parts, mainly because I want to keep the content relatively short, and also because there was just a lot of items to see in the antique store. So this is going to be part 1. I'm going to show you guys half of the items that I purchased today, and next week in part 2 I'll show you the other part of the antique store or antique mall and the remaining items that I purchased. So I'm going to stop recording for just a moment. I'm going to get all of these baggies opened, and we're going to look at all of these great items. I'm going to start with this one. You guys saw this. I had chosen 2 brooches out of that one container or basket that I was going to purchase, and I mentioned that they looked like they were missing a few stones. Regardless of that, I thought this was very beautiful, and it looked almost like a Weiss. Now, usually if you're buying anything vintage or antique, it's always best to buy in perfect condition. But for me, if it's a good price and I feel like it's something that I can repair, like this brooch, then I'll usually go ahead and purchase it. As I've already mentioned, this looked a lot like Weiss to me. And it just so happens that this brooch is signed. I'm going to flip it over so you guys can see the back, and we'll look at the signature on it. Surprisingly, this is not a Weiss. This is a brooch by Art, and you can see the marking there. It's still a beautiful brooch. Art made some wonderful pieces of jewelry, and I feel like I got a really good price on this one. Hopefully, I can find the right stones and get this repaired, and once I do, I know that it's going to be just a lovely piece of jewelry. This is the second brooch that I chose out of that bin. I think this is very pretty. It's definitely going to need a good cleaning. It looks rather dirty. And unfortunately, this one is also missing a few stones, but not quite as many as the first brooch. I like the way this brooch is made. I really like the domed look of it. I also like the details that they've done in the metalwork of this piece. And I like the color combination. I feel like this is kind of unusual. You can see that they've used a combination of blue, turquoise colored stones, clear stones, and red rhinestones. Despite the fact that this was missing stones, I thought it was beautiful. I liked the interesting combination, so I decided to go ahead and pick this one up. This brooch is also signed, and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to show you the marking on the back of it. This brooch is by BSK. I do have a few pieces of their jewelry. I like their jewelry. They have some really nice pieces, and I feel like their jewelry is of very good quality. I believe that once I clean this brooch and get all of the stones replaced in it, it's going to be a magnificent piece of jewelry. Another brooch that I found in that same bin was this small gold tone brooch. I picked this up because it was an excellent price, and I also noticed that this brooch was signed on the back. I'm going to zoom in on this. I can make out the part where it says USA. I believe that says made in the USA. So that's relatively clear, but there's also another marking on this brooch that's not quite as clear. And I'm going to zoom in a little better to see if you guys can see that. I really can't make it out even looking through the camera lens. I may have to get my loupe out, but if any of you guys can make out what that says, let me know in the comments. Many of you have helped me out with this quite often. You've been able to read something where I haven't been able to, and it's been a great help. I thought this was nice. This is a beautiful little gold tone brooch, and it's in very good condition. And it was at a really good price. Another brooch that I found was this one, and we found this in the basket that Mama was looking through. I decided to go ahead and get this guy. April is the month of Easter, and what better to wear on an Easter outfit than a cute little rabbit brooch? I like the way this brooch is done. It looks as though he's looking to the side, and I also like the pink rhinestone for his eye. This brooch is a really nice size. It's something that would stand out on an outfit. It's also a really good weight. It's not cheaply made. It's got quite a bit of weight to it, and this brooch is also signed. This is by Liz Claiborne. I have a few pieces of Liz Claiborne jewelry. One of my favorite pieces of Liz Claiborne jewelry is an enameled bracelet that I've had for years and years. So all of her pieces of jewelry are of very good quality. They had a lot of jewelry hanging up and in display cases, but everything that we purchased today were items that had been put in baskets and bins. This is another great score. This was also found in one of the bins. And this one is a beautiful enameled brooch. It's in relatively good condition. There is some slight wear on the enamel just on one side of this brooch, but other than that, there's really not anything at all wrong with it. The only other thing that I noticed about this brooch is you can see here it has some slight movement. I'm really not sure if it's supposed to be that way. It may be a little loose, or simply because that's the way that this piece was put together. I'm going to flip it over so you guys can see right here. This is how it is put together, and that's what causes this to have a slight movement to it. So if you guys know that that's the way it's supposed to be, let me know in the comments. This brooch is also signed. It is by Monet. I was really excited when I noticed that this was a Monet. I don't really have a lot of white enamel pieces in my collection of Monet jewelry, so I thought this would be a great addition to that. So far, all I've shown you guys is brooches. I did find quite a few brooches today. Brooches were not the only items that I found. I found this beautiful bracelet. I also found some necklaces and at least one pair of earrings that I can think of right off. This bracelet, I really liked this. This is kind of done in a cha-cha style. It has these beautiful faux pearls, and they have the coating on them, kind of like the old Haskell pearls used to have. It also has these lovely clear lucite beads. And this bracelet, I think, is something that someone did a little project on. If you look at it, I don't think that this is the original clasp on this. Now, I'm just guessing here, guys. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that perhaps at some time or the other, this was a little bit longer. It looks like someone may have shortened it and changed out the clasp for a toggle clasp. You can also see that rather than being attached to the chain on this, that the largest pearl has been attached directly to the clasp. So that kind of gives me a clue that this is something that someone has done a little bit of alteration or work on. I do still think that this is a vintage bracelet, and I think it's a very beautiful bracelet. It's also rather tiny. This bracelet probably fits around maybe a 6-inch wrist. I would have to measure it to be sure, but just by looking at it, you can tell it's a relatively small bracelet. Either way, this was a pretty good price. It was in one of those baskets, and I decided, you know what, why not? Perhaps I could change the clasp back on it, or maybe even add some extra chain to it to make it a little longer. The last piece of jewelry that I'm going to show you guys today is this one. And I think this is just absolutely fabulous. I feel like this is the kind of brooch that you could wear anytime. It would look great around the holiday seasons because it has that kind of snowflake starburst look to it. But it also has a really Sputnik type retro look to it. So this would look great at any time. It's not missing any rhinestones. This one is in excellent condition, and this brooch is also signed. This is an Avon brooch, and the SP that you see beneath the Avon mark stands for silver plated. This is a vintage brooch. This one, I believe, is from the early 2000s, and definitely a brooch worth picking up. It's very good quality. My friend and I, as we were antiquing today, we were talking about Avon and how some of the pieces that we could have easily purchased back in the day, in fact, I owned a few of them, I lost in a house fire. Those pieces are worth a lot of money now. There were pieces that they collaborated with Kenneth J. Lane. There were pieces by Elizabeth Taylor. There were also some pieces that they did with Jose Maria Ibarra. All those pieces are worth quite a bit of money now. So anytime I run across a beautiful piece of Avon jewelry that I think is good quality like this one and that is also vintage, I don't overlook those pieces. I always pick them up to add to my collection, and I feel like this is a piece that I will most likely keep in my collection and wear often. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to share these items with me. If you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on more content about collecting vintage and antique items. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.